How often have you heard somebody say, people don't change? How often have you said, people don't change? It seems to be one of those truisms that goes around culture, and I hear it way too much nowadays. It really bugs me because I know that it's a lie. I know that people change. I know because I have. I've changed a lot, several times actually, throughout my life. I've grown, I've matured, I have stopped doing certain things that I used to do when I was younger. I changed my mind on a lot of positions that I used to have. Change happens all the time. The real answer to the question of do people change is how do people change? And the answer to that's quite simple. They change when they want to. There's a lot going on in the world, and I know that I feel ready for a change. We've been talking a lot about how to bring change to the world outside. But as we continue our Druidcraft 101 series under this full moon of the via-Transformativa, let's talk about how to transform ourselves through the powers of alchemical magic as we walk together down creations. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christo-Pagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christo-Pagan Druid and sous chef to the Dog Day.
Today, we're going to be talking about the first of the magic mentioned in the book Druidcraft by Philip Cargam, and that's alchemical magic. And don't worry, you're not going to need a chemical set for this. No chemistry involved. We're not going to be, we might be boiling things in first, kind of. Teas are important, but we'll talk about all that in a minute. But before we do, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever the app is you're listening to us on. We do original Christo-Pagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and you don't want to miss a thing. We have a lot coming up and a lot to talk. All right, let's just get into it. So, Brian, do people change?
Ta-da! All done.
Thank you for listening to this.
Thank you for listening. Yeah, people change. You have to want to change. And before you can even want to change, you have to first be able to see the problem. You have to recognize the thing in you that you want to change. I like to try to word it in without judgment terms. So I try to word it as you have to identify the thing that you want to change. Now, change can also happen through, we'll say, trauma, crisis, through trauma, anything that causes a mental shakeup. Your brain will rewire and will change your thinking patterns as well. It's the less desired path for change.
When we're talking about whether or not change happens, the real thing that we need to be mentioning here is that no, you can't force change on other people. As much as we would like to make someone else change, change really does have to come from a place inside. You have to want to make the change. You have to desire to make the change. And also, I think we unfairly hamper our ability to see change in people. And when we talk about how people don't change, we are often looking at addiction issues or some other kind of chemical dependency or some form of mental health issues. And those can be lifelong struggles. And I want to say that up front. As somebody who really does believe that people can change, I have suffered from depression my whole life. It has been a companion that shows up and leaves and shows up again, almost always when you really don't want it to. And that is something that can be treated. And that is something that you can get help for. And yes, there are a lot of practices that you can learn that can help you mitigate and control that. But if you are dealing with a psychological or an addiction issue, you should be seeing a therapist. And I want to say that up front, do not substitute anything that we're talking about today for good and valid therapy and medical advice. And I'm not saying that just as boilerplate disclaimers. If you remember, we did an entire episode about not confusing what magic is good for what. And the tools and techniques that you are going to get from a therapist or from a doctor are going to be very different from what we are talking about and will help to address what are typically biological issues with either chemical dependency or with neurotransmitter levels and what have you, causing depression and other psychological issues. Mental health is health and you need to go to a healthcare provider for it. Yes, there are things that you can do to bolster it on your own, but I think it's really unfair
And
when we look at those kinds of issues and then say, well, people never change.
yeah, and see, the thing is, another way to rephrase that or to word that in a more Druidic way of wording it would be that is one of the fates that you're born with.
Yes.
And the fates that you're born with doesn't mean that will be your fate. As we talked about, when we're talking about fate that you're born with and the fate you weave in your life, it's just the fates you're born with is the easiest things for you to do. So if you're born with is mental challenges and stuff, it's easy to suffer from those mental challenges. And so it's going to take more work, more effort to reweave a new fate. And it's going to take a constant effort. And that's why, even magical, in the more woo-woo magically terms, you want to seek multiple means of magic because you're trying to reweave something that is much harder to reweave. It doesn't mean it can't be changed.
There are elements of our personality that can, there are elements of our belief system that can, and all of those things really do make up who we are. When I say that people can change, I was a very angry, very hostile, very violent kid. I got into fights a lot when I was younger. And I find it funny today when I tell stories to people and I see them smile and laugh and look at me like, yeah, you were a scrapper. Yeah, yes, I was. And it's telling how much I have changed over the years that people just don't believe that that is not something that people see as a possibility in me anymore. That really helps me feel like, yes, I've done the work up with the work, but it shows how much I have changed because, yeah, I've done things that I'm not proud of. I have anger issues. And that's something that you can work on. That is something that you can change. And again, I did that in concert between a therapist and through learning various meditation techniques to help me learn compassion, which was not something that was native to my spirit. It was something that I was born with. I was not born innately compassionate. I developed a lot of the common care and feeling that I have for people over time because that's not how I was raised and that's not what was inside of me. And so I wanted to spend the beginning here talking about the things that we can and cannot change. It's like serenity prayer. We need to know what we can change. And anything that I put in the can't category, by the way, again, go to a therapist, go to a doctor. They can help you with those things. You don't come to a healer like me for those issues. That's misunderstanding a healer and a doctor. Two different professions. We do different things. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to go to Dean for that one.
Yeah.
You know,
Unfortunately, you have to go to the index for that one.
he doesn't work, but yeah, yeah,
Woo. Yeah. Okay. So how do you do this? So the easiest one, and it's the one that I just want to get the eye roll out of the way with, is meditate.
yeah.
It has gotten to the point where it's almost a joke line. Have you meditated today? But have you meditated today? Is that a thing that you've done?
For instance, for myself, I have ADHD. Part of what was woven into my fate at the beginning is my brain is wired differently. And along with that, part of my fate is I can be easily distracted. Through weaving meditation in, I've been able to train and bring some discipline in so that when I am meditating, when I am doing those things, I can have that focus and maintain that focus and
I want
be
to
able
correct your
to,
wording there, just so we're not giving people false hope. It is easier to
yeah, it's
focus.
easier. I was about to say, I still have to work on it
Yeah.
every day because once again, that thread I was born with, that thread will never be severed. You can never cut it and have a new thread in place. Those threads you're born with are always going to be there. Now, when you're weaving things in, like in this case, I wove meditation in and was able to pull it, to stretch it in a different pattern. We're talking about weaving patterns. And so I was able to weave it into a different pattern so that it doesn't follow the typical pattern and was able to make change because that's what we're talking about, affecting change. But because there's always a tension for it to revert back, I have to constantly maintain and work on the other threads that I have woven in to help with things.
Now, eventually, we're probably going to have to do a full series on different kinds of meditation. And
Yeah,
we've been debating how we want to do that, if we want to try to bring in a guest for those or whatnot. If you know somebody who might be interested in doing something like that, do let us know in the comments or just reach out to us through the links on creationfast.com. But having said that, don't fall into the pop culture obsession with mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is good. I highly recommend it. It is useful for the vast majority of people, but it is not the only way to meditate. Meditation is learning to have a singular focus of mind. That's really the core of what you're trying to do meditating. Some people do this naturally and they don't even realize that they do it. Some people find this when they're cooking, like the entire world drops off and it's just them and what they're doing and they're in that focus. Most musicians, when they sit and just noodle on their instrument and just play around with it and just get into that place, do it there. I have used journaling over the years because I'm a writer. I found that very helpful. What you're looking for is something that brings you into that kind of singular focus and helps you to basically develop that muscle inside of you for focus. I also love jhana meditations. I think that is a really good way of doing things. I'm actually working up a kind of quasi course that I want to do on the podcast about the way that I've been practicing jhana meditation lately, which is the same but a little bit different. I'm trading out some of the metaphors in it that I found very helpful and meaningful for me. But there are a lot of different ways that you can metaphor. Tom Glenn has also been very helpful for, I think, both of us
Yeah.
in the way that you meditate. And I could keep going on. There is an entire list of different kinds of meditation. So I hate it when I talk to somebody and I bring up meditation and they're like, I can't meditate. I can't sit still. That's great. Have you tried walking meditation, running meditation, dancing meditation? Have you tried body prayer where you just dance? You just dance. You don't think about what you're doing. You just let your body move. Have you tried that? Have you tried labyrinth walking? Nature hiking?
You can even do cleaning, dishes and stuff, cleaning around the house. That actually is a meditation. It can be done and structured in such a way to be a meditation.
Yeah, meditation is anything that brings you into that kind of singular focus of mind. And that might require you to distract your body in various ways. Pray a rosary. I pray the rosary a lot. It's probably my most common, maybe one of my most common ways of finding that kind of focused meditation. So just because sitting quietly in a room with no sound doesn't work for you does not mean that meditation will not work. There are a lot of forms of meditation. The next one is the one that I want to bring up, and it's I'm going to hate using this word now, and I hate using this word now. But one of the ways that I got through my anger issues was studying Stoicism. And that's become such a buzzword among some of the worst people in the world right now who have no idea what Stoicism is. Stoicism is essentially what if Buddhism were from Greece and not India? In fact, I'm one of those people that I say this kind of jokingly, but also believe it. If you are not doing divination every day, you're not a Stoic, because that is core to the idea of Stoicism, because Stoicism is a belief system based on the idea of fate. Also see my draw to Druidry there. But one of the most powerful meditations that you find in Stoicism is the meditation of the river. And it's when you have a lot of thoughts in your mind. I'm a very visual person. Visualization comes very easy for me. If you have aphasia, you could just say the words and let them go instead of doing the visualization. But you basically imagine yourself as the bed of a river and you watch the water flowing past. And on the surface of the river, there are all these leaves, twigs, various things floating by. And as you're having these stray thoughts, you attach them to those leaves and twigs. And you just watch them go by. All of your worries, concerns, you just attach them to the leaves and the twigs and you watch them go by. And through this process, you start realizing that flow of consciousness is not you. You are separate from that flow of consciousness. And this is a great way to start transforming yourself, because when you have a desire to do something that you don't want to do, or you want to stop doing, or certain tendencies start popping up in you, you attach them to the twigs, you attach them to the leaves, and you let them flow down the river. You are not the water. You are the riverbed. That water and all of those things floating in it, the fish, everything, they're all parts. They're not you. And when you start compartmentalizing, if you will, these ideas, these instincts, these drives, these aspects of your character that you don't want to be a part of you. This is a meditation that I find very helpful when I'm having an issue with anger, which, believe it or not, I've been a stream bed a lot lately. Like every time I watch the news, I'm a happy little stream bed. Oh wow, there are bull sharks in my water. Swim by, little bull sharks, swim by. Because my anger really isn't able to be contained in the leaves right now. Bull sharks can go up rivers. I just see the bull sharks in the river swimming by. They're a good embodiment for the anger and rage I need to just go past. But it's a way of learning to let go and allow that transformation to come. It's a very powerful way to do this. And it's one that I highly recommend. If that doesn't work for you, I had a friend back in high school when I first started practicing Stoicism, and the riverbed didn't work for her, but she would literally get a thing of bubbles and would just sit there blowing bubbles and attach her thoughts, cares, concerns, worries, doubts, fears to the bubbles and watch them float away and often pop.
I really like the river trick too, because I interact a lot with the public, and it's really wonderful because sometimes somebody does something or says something that will trigger you, and you just remember they're just river detritus. They will flow down the river. And I also use it as a reminder to myself, don't have attachment to the river detritus. If I have attachment, that river detritus is going to get stuck on the bank, and I will have to continue to experience it over and over again. It won't be allowed to flow on. And so I also use that for that. So then I don't have that attachment. So it can move on. It is gone. And then it'll be back to the pretty water, the pretty flow of whatever the regular public interactions are, the pleasant public interactions, the calm river without all the detritus.
And sometimes you need to go deeper with this. Lojban, which is a form of slogan meditation, daily affirmations for Buddhists, though daily affirmations are probably inspired by it. So it's probably the other way around. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's creating a slogan that you repeat to yourself over and over and over again to remind yourself of the qualities that you're trying to weave into your story. Because that's the most important part of learning how to change is we tend to think about change, especially of ourselves, like we're tinkering on a car. And I see a lot of metaphors of tinkering with the engine. We're changing the code in the computer. That's not what's going on. If you actually want to think about how to change yourself, we are narrative beings. We're storytelling creatures. So the way you actually have to do the change is you have to pitch new stories in the writer's room. We need to make sure that there's a new voice in the writer's room. You need to think about this more like in Inside Out. You need to add another voice at the console, and that's how you actually start to change.
I do love the story of Inside Out and the imagery there. Another way I like to think of it is going off the garden analogy. Your garden, there's things that are constantly growing
Yeah.
and dying and needing pruning. And if you're not being mindful of your garden, that's when weeds get in and birds can come along and plant things when you're not paying attention and not even realize it. And it might not even be the intention of the bird to plant something in your garden, but now you got something growing. It's also nice because it's what are you watering? What are you fertilizing? Because whatever you're watering and fertilizing in your garden, that is what's going to grow more of. So if you're nurturing anger, if you're nurturing hatred, you're just going to have more and more of that growing in you. And because of the law of returning tide, you're going to have more of that washing back at you because you're going to be putting that out in the universe as well.
And this is where I get to say our least favorite phrase on the show. I can feel people cringing every time I say it, but this is where you have to start learning for yourself some of the ways that help you with this. Like one of the ways that I learned to deal with my anger issues is I listen to a lot of very aggressive music. I think a lot of people who meet me understand I listen to a lot of very aggressive, angry, hostile music. Zeal and Ardor is one of my favorite bands. I listen to a lot of very aggressive music, and I would not even say that they're like the most aggressive band that I listen to. And it's because this is a way for me to not pretend that those angry energies are in me, because you have to learn to sublimate. Sublimation is making something pretty. It's taking the energy that's in you and diverting it down a different course. So instead of letting the anger build up and build up, which is the mistake a lot of people make when they have anger issues or any other issues, you just tap it down and let it build up and build up until it explodes. And then you have a really big thing. My anger flows out in that when I'm bopping around the house, I sing a song. I have a moment of just letting it flood out in that music because it's a safe space, right? No one's going to get hurt if I'm in my own home shouting the lyrics to a very aggressive song out into the universe and just letting it go and getting back into that peaceful mindset so I can go about my day. Today, I'm having a bit of an anxiety day. And before we started recording, I played Dochi's new song, Anxiety, and sang along with it just to, I honor you. I see you. You're here. We're going to pour all of this anxious energy into this wonderful song about anxiety and just let it flow out. And if you can learn that, this is a superpower that we have forgotten. That the only time I ever heard about it in school was when we were studying Greek plays,
Hmm.
and that's catharsis. Catharsis used to be seen as a spiritual practice.
Yep.
In the holy book of Hierotheos, there are 3 types of meditation you're supposed to learn. The third kind is catharsis. It's learning to have this kind of ability to just purge these energies from you, to purge these negative thoughts from you, and to exorcise these demons from you. And there are a lot of ways that people can do that. And you need to figure out what is healthy for you, because I know some people that they can't listen to aggressive music because it feeds their aggression and makes
That's
them
something.
more aggressive.
Yeah, that's something I have to be very careful about because, yes, I can experience catharsis, but I am more prone to rumination. I'm more prone to, when trying to go down the path of catharsis, I'm more prone to just amplifying those energies rather than being able to sublimate them in that way, which is why I found more that Tonglen path works a lot better, where I just take that energy and just transform it in myself. It's a little bit different process, but it's one of those things where, like Charlie said, it really depends on your individual means of processing things, which is why learning about yourself is so important in all this practice.
Yeah.
Learning about what works for you.
This is the work of alchemy. It's learning to see those base metals that are in you and the proper methods to transmute them, to change the very substance of them from one thing to another. I still have angry issues. You hear them on the podcast. It comes out of me, though, as righteous indignation now. It brings out the preacher in me. It brings out the spokesman for justice in me, and isn't just blind throwing fists rage. Sublimation can happen. Change can happen. You have to want it. People have to want it. It really is a magic to learn how to do this. We talk about journaling a lot, how what a big fan I am of journaling. This is a good way of identifying some of these things and allowing yourself to think through the changes that you want to have made.
I would recommend going back and listening through the episodes where we talk about the 5 powers.
Yes.
That's a very helpful and important process when working on yourself and working on the alchemical magic.
I think it's the basic methodology for
It's
it's how all spiritual machines work.
Yeah, it really is very much so.
I like the analogy of spiritual technology, but these are the technologies that you need to be bringing into your own self and figuring out which ones are the ones that are right for you. And unfortunately, yeah, there isn't a one size fits all, but I will say that there is and there isn't. Meditation will help you across the board. The problem is there are different kinds of meditation. Sometimes you need to pick up a book like Writing Down the Bones and learn how to just get your morning pages out, where you just stream of consciousness, pour out whatever is into you onto the page, whether you ever read it again, right? Sometimes you need to go for a jog. I love it when I meet people that are like, oh, I do my run every morning, but I'm not really a meditator. I'm like, describe to me what it feels like to run every morning. And then they describe meditation, but they don't call it that. They call it jogging. They call it running. They call it mountain climbing. Those people that really like to go and climb do the walls and stuff at the gyms. Some people do this in their cycling. Whatever gets you to that single focused mind is meditation. And we all have different ways of getting there. More than anything, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and you're still thinking to yourself, but Charlie, I can't change. Just having that desire to change means that you're doing good. You're not doing great, but you're doing good. Because I'll tell you a little secret. Those who are too far gone, the ones that are probably lost, don't think to themselves, I could do better. I could change. That thought never comes into their mind. They have either given up and accepted this is the way that I am, or they love being that destructive force in the world and they're happy to be it. And I think that there are even paths back from there, though they're harder. But if you have that desire to change in you at all, you are on the right path. Because while I'm not the biggest fan of 12 steps, they do have a few things right. And that admitting that you have a problem being the first step really is one of them. If you know that there's something in you that you need to change, that is not an immutable characteristic. I think there's going to be a lot of people, especially with all the stressors coming around, that are thinking to themselves, if I can only change this LGBTQ bit of me. And as somebody who went through all that back in the 80s and 90s, don't even try. Immutable characteristics don't change. Some things you just have to accept about yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that there's one way to be LGBTQ. There's never one way to do or be anything. And as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be fine in the end. Just keep trying. Each day, do what you can to be better. I hope you can take some of this energy of the full moon and use it for your own advantage to give yourself that boost that you need to get started on change. There's a lot of change that needs to happen right now. And this is a really good time to do it because a lot of the folks that we're striving against right now that we are seeing as the enemy, they had a crisis back during the pandemic that caused their entire belief system to get shaken up and recrystallize in a bad way. We're looking at people who are suffering from trauma that don't even recognize that they're suffering from trauma. And we need to do whatever we can to help bring them back into the fold. All right. I hope that this meant something to you. I'd love to know what you think about all this. If you've gone through this kind of a journey and you feel like sharing what tools helped you to make that change, I would love to know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, is what they say, you can leave a comment. They don't tell us. So leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to creationspast.com, click on chat, and you can leave a comment there. We will be able to see it and get back to you. You can also go to the post over on Creations Past and leave a comment there as well. We'll see that too. People will respond in either place. I just didn't want people to feel like they had to hunt down the specific episode. You can if you want to, or you can just go into the chat and just leave a comment there. It's fine either way. By the way, all of our podcasts are being hosted again over at creationspast.com. So if you want to find a full list of everything over there, that links out to all of our websites and everything. While you're there, if you happen to have any money you want to pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. You can also support us through Cash App with the hashtag Creations Paths. Thank you so much to everybody who does that. Really help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head and food on the table. Y'all mean the world to us. Thank you ever so much. If you don't have any money right now, or if you're not sure that we're the kind of people that you want to give your hard-earned dollars to, that's completely understandable. But if we've ever done anything that helped you out or you think would help others, please share it with them. That makes a huge difference and really helps us out more than you know. All right. As we are heading out today, I'm going to say a quick prayer to St. Paul. St. Paul was very misunderstood because others wrote in your name and wrote very terrible things in your name, even though your name was already sullied by the actions that you took in your own life to harm and persecute those that you would eventually come to love. You walked the path of change and demonstrated it for us. You tell us in your letters, and we see it in the book of Acts, the changes that you had to go through to become a better person and to be the person that you wanted to be. You remind us of the path that we need to walk every day. Help us to change ourselves and to endlessly perfect that which God has already made perfect. Amen.
Amen.